Hey, what's up everybody and welcome to the show. I hope everyone had a good holiday season and Happy New Year's to you. I know a lot of people had the week off between Christmas and New Year's and had a nice relaxing holiday, hopefully. For me, I was actually busy all throughout the holidays. In addition to all the friends and family type thing, people coming into town and going out, I did a lot of work. I worked in the afternoon on Christmas Eve. I worked the day after New Year's, or New Year's Day, the day after New Year's Eve and all that. So I've actually been busy, which has been good. I shot a couple artist pieces here in the studio. They were both glass artists. One did more sculptural type stuff and one worked with stained glass. They were both interesting. The stained glass was challenging and interesting to shoot, kind of a new experience for me. Got up to Macedonia to shoot some industrial type stuff. Tow motor scales, a redesign of those, shot that. A few other things. He had just, kept busy, did some video work, some professional video editing. I had already shot that needed to be completed, finished putting those together. So yeah, it's been good for me. I like to be busy. If I'm not busy, I'm not getting paid. So anyways, I was gonna do a gear video today about what I bring with me on a big portrait or industrial shoot, but plans changed because I've been having some trouble with the Canon 6D, which is filming this. As I said in the last video, I didn't plan to upgrade from that camera until there was a problem with it because the image quality was so good. Well, unfortunately that problem happened. The hot shoe is going bad. It's getting loose in some way, and if I don't hold the flash on the camera just right, it won't flash. And I was out, I shot First Night Akron, which is a family-friendly New Year's Eve party. It takes place in multiple venues around the city. I had an itinerary, so I was running around all these different venues shooting, and I had to remember to hold the camera right or I couldn't get my flash to go off. So that was an issue, and then last week when I was shooting one of the artists, the camera was having an issue communicating with the lenses, and so I had to take the lens off, reattach it a couple times to get it to work. I did that quietly. Fortunately, no one noticed, and then I've also been having some trouble with the camera writing to the memory cards. And I just know from experience with electronics, when something starts to go wrong, it only keeps going wrong. And I can't send the camera out for repair because then I don't have a camera. And like I've said, I have my Rebel shooting over on the side, but I can't go and shoot product photography with that or the artist work. It would just be an emergency thing, say at an event. So I ordered a Canon 5D Mark IV. It came this morning. I've always wanted a Canon 5D since probably since the Mark II came out. Could never justify the cost, when I wasn't as professional. And even when I bought the 6D, the camera I knew I wanted at the time was the 5D Mark III, but the Mark III at the time was going for $3,500, and I think I picked up my 6D for $2,400 maybe. So, and I needed to upgrade lenses because the lenses I had for my 70 that I was using at the time would not work on a full frame. So the money I saved in selling the old lenses made it just make more financial sense to go with the 60, just for the all-around upgrade. I always kind of considered the camera a bridge camera. I knew that it was a step back from this kind of build. And you get the benefit of that camera the 60 being smaller and lighter, but I never liked it. I've had it for a little over 2.5 years, and I was still always reaching for the buttons that were on the back of the 7D 2.5 years later. The 7D was like an extension of my hand. I had it for a long time. I used it till it stopped completely working on me. But that's why I ran out. I bought the 60 on the way to a photo shoot, actually. But so I've always been happy with the image quality. Like I said, if I set the thing on a tripod and I'm doing product photography, no problem. But when it comes to going out and shooting an event, it has been a little bit of a pain. I always shoot with the center focus point and recompose. I thought the autofocus was terrible. I would say terrible. Yeah, I mean, it was a step down from a camera that was much older. I know it's not made to be a high-end camera. They cut corners everywhere on it, and over time, I never got used to it. There's certain things about it I never liked. So to upgrade to a 5D, this is the Mark IV, just to hold this thing in my hands, it already feels right again. Certain little things that they've done on this, like the joystick for focusing, is so great. They added this new button that even the last 5Ds didn't have, which is really nice. I set it up for ISO, so I could switch the ISO without even, you know, taking my eye off the screen. A couple other things, the build quality. Like the 6D lasted me 2.5 years. I mean, this must have lasted me, I want to say 4 or 5, and I carried it everywhere, you know, trips, out in the cold, hiking, I did a lot of that. You know, not that the 6D didn't get well used, but it just goes to show that it was not the same quality. The 5D Mark IV is the most weather sealed 5D ever, so that was kind of a nice benefit to get along with it. The image quality, I shot one thing with this so far today besides messing around with it in the studio. I haven't had the chance to look into. I know it's 30 megapixels, I'm stepping up from 20, so I know I'm getting more resolution. Like I said, I've never had a client complain about resolution yet, so that's not a huge deal to me, but it is nice when you have to cut out a file, you know, do the outlining and stuff like that to have more to work with. You know, cropping, you know, if you decide you want to crop in, it does give you more options for that. I'm hoping really what they improved is, and I've read they have, the dynamic range and then the ISO performance. So hopefully the 6D did well in low light, but I'm hoping this does even better, you know. It's nice to be able to save the flash power, and then sometimes when you just can't use a flash to be able to get a shot, you know. I know the range goes way higher on this, but I don't care about the overall range. I care about the overall quality. And another thing that's great to have back is the flash sync built in. With the 6D, I had to carry a couple little gizmos with me that went on the hot shoe, and if I forgot it, then I had to trigger the flashes, my studio strobes or the on-location strobes some other way. That was something that I always just found to be a pain, and it's so welcome. I was shooting portraits today. I didn't have to worry about remembering those little things, worry about them working. I carried 2 just in case one didn't work. You know, all the full HDMI outs, headphone jack, mic jack, everything, you know, full-size HDMI ports, you know, stuff that's a big deal. I'd say the number one, yeah, as I mentioned, the autofocus system on this, just with my limited messing around in here with the lights being low, is incredible. Just it has so many more, I think 41 cross type points with a huge coverage across the frame. So when you're using it in traditional SLR mode, it's great. But even better is this new, it has touchscreen focusing now. And the thing that makes it so worthwhile is it's actually, I think, what they call dual pixel or something. But you could actually touch anywhere on the sensor, and the thing will just nail focus like anywhere. And it's absolutely amazing. And I know you think, well, my phone does that. Trust me, your phone doesn't do it like this. I have an iPhone too, and it is not, I mean, this is just absolutely anywhere it'll, you know. And just the touch screen in general, it's so convenient. We're all used to them. Why not have that option to be able to scroll through menus? When I zoom in on a, you know, even today, showing a client their picture, and I was pointing, and then I'm like, oh yeah, this is a touch screen. I could just move it around. So just that, you know, for the focus, it's amazing. For just, you know, typical day-to-day use, it's one of those things that's so nice to have. Another thing I've always wanted is the dual card slots. I've never had a camera that has this, and it's always been a worry of mine, even though I've never had a problem. And I've set it so it writes to both cards. I have it writing JPEGs to one and RAW to the other. Just knowing you have that backup as a professional, sometimes, you know, when you're out, you know, I might be in a factory or a tool shop where they're slowing production down for me or stopping production because I'm coming. They've spent a week cleaning, you know, all this stuff before I come in, and then I just always been nervous having this one little, you know, card that needs to work. I need to accidentally not delete it. It needs to get to the computer. Just that instant backup is such peace of mind to have. Other things I wrote down here. The app that came with this. I've only messed with it for a minute, but I hooked it up to my phone. And one of the things I heard people complain about this camera was that it didn't have a flip out screen yet. And, you know, all the Micro Four Thirds have it, and a lot of, even some of the Canons in their XXD line, they put them on there now. Not a big deal to me. I would take the build quality of not having one, but just that it was a complaint. So when I put on the app, I could completely control the camera from this and see what the camera sees. So I'm wondering why people care, because I have a flip out screen in my hand, and this is such a huge thing, and it ties in with that new focus I was just talking about, the touchscreen focus. So I set the camera over here, and I have it on, and I have the phone in my hand, and wherever I touched, the camera on my iPhone was nailing focus. And why that'll be huge for me is I use a little trigger when I do portraits over here and stuff like that, and I take a shot of myself, all the lighting goes off, the camera goes off, run back to the camera, missed autofocus, didn't get myself in the frame. Recompose, try it again, go back, get it. So finally when I nail the focus, then I'm going to the camera, zooming in, seeing if it's right. Well, not only can I now stand there with a full remote, but I can adjust all the settings and see the image. So just that, it's gonna save me so much time and just effort, just making things so easy. And then also just doing this, stuff like this little show here, where it works for video too. What I do when I do this right now with the 6D is I actually put a mannequin here, set up all the lights, get a view from that camera, get a view from that camera, get a view from that camera, adjust everything, you know, pull the mannequin out, hope I'm sitting exactly where the mannequin was. And, you know, now I could sit down, get all my settings right on my phone, have it start recording. I think it's a feature that I just don't hear talked about very much. All the reviews I've read, no one's mentioned the app. Maybe it's because I'm out of the loop and all the cameras work like that now, but I don't know. The Canon one is working really well. I think it's an updated one from what I've read too. So it's not the, you know, if you've tried Canon's app in the past, maybe it's worth looking into again. And so for me, the reason to upgrade, I mean, is I think fairly obvious. Why I didn't decide to go with one of the sexier options like those Sony A7s and all that. Huge thing is battery life. They just don't have it. You could shoot 1,000 images with these. I always carry a spare battery and I've almost never had to use it. Usually 2 spare batteries. And I shot first night, that was a 6-hour shoot in and out of the cold. The 6D, 1 battery, and a battery that is, the battery that was in there is almost 3 years old because I bought it as a backup for this. So, you know, I also looked at the 5D Mark III because, you know, there'd be considerable savings by buying the last model. I figured I do want something with 4K. This will shoot 4K. There's been complaints about the motion JPEG, the compression rate of the 4K. You know, go to one of those other websites if you are just totally want to nerd out on specs. There's tons of sites that do that. You know, when I review something, it's not a review, it's how it works for me. And I know this is something that is going to work for me. Plus Canon is trusted. Not that Sony isn't, but there's no 4-year-old A7s yet, are there? I mean, so how do they hold up compared to something like this? You know, I'm not sure, but I don't want to be the guinea pig to find out. And then, if I wanted to use my Canon lenses, I would have to use an adapter and all that. And I've read that the autofocus isn't the same. So all the filmmaking stuff that they're putting into these other new cameras, yeah, that's a little exciting and stuff. The 5D line, when it became the Mark II, was the most exciting, was the most sexy camera out there. And now the 5D line is kind of looked at as utilitarian. But that's what I need. I'm not not doing, this isn't a hobby. This is, you know, my life. So I need something that I know is going to work every day of the week. And that this is what I believe in 4 years, I'll still be saying that this works every day of the week. So I think that about covers everything on this. I think I'm going to do a complete separate video showing the app. I was going to do a cutaway to it, but I kind of want to show how cool I find it to be, and maybe other people will. And that's one thing I just haven't seen as much of on the, you know, big YouTube shows that are pretty much bashing this camera when it came out, you know, bashing it on spec rates, you know. And I think that's one thing worth remembering when you watch shows like that. Those people get every new camera that comes out. How much do they actually use them as a professional photographer anymore? Some of the big YouTube channels. I think a lot of them are just, they're just review guys now. They're no longer working photographers. And sometimes I think that is the reason for a different kind of review. So anyways, those are just my thoughts. Everyone has an opinion. I'll have a better opinion as I work with this, and I'll always, you know, add a little information as I do other shoots and get more used to it. Right now, I just love the way it feels in my hand. I'm so glad to be back to this kind of body again. It's, you know, it's what I like. Anyways, I don't have a beer today to tell you about because kind of on the wagon, taking a little New Year's break, you know, not quitting, but just spent $3,500, so I don't need to spend any money on booze. Anyways, I hope everyone has a good day, and I will see you next week.